All right, what's going on, everybody? I've been wanting to make this video for a while because I think it's really important to discuss how to become a better speedrunner. Now, I'm making this because there's not a lot of people at the very highest levels of speedrunning. And I don't know, honestly, like nobody's the perfect speedrunner, but it's basically a journey, right? We're all on this journey to become the best speedrunners we can be. And oftentimes people get stuck somewhere. So I'm making this video to help people who are stuck. Because if you don't know me, I'm Zem92. I can pull up my speedrun.com profile right now. speedrun.com/user/Zem92. We can take a look together. As of right now, I am one of, if not the most decorated Ratchet and Clank runners in the world. I have multiple world records, multiple top 3 placings. I actually don't think I have, even in miscellaneous categories, I don't have less than 3rd place in every single category I've attempted. I currently have a 126 in Super Mario Sunshine. I played this game for about a month. So a 126 after a month is, I think, very good. Kingdom Hearts 2 I also played for about a month. Ended up getting a sub 420. You can insert your 420 jokes here. And again, that's a pretty good time. Could it have been a lot better? Yes. Same thing with Sunshine. It also could have been a lot better. But, you know, point being, I'm more of a Ratchet and Clank guy. So I want to talk about some stuff here. And actually, the first point that I want to make, this is going to be quite the long list. At the very beginning, we need to talk about mentality. Because speedrunning starts and ends with mentality. And in fact, I'll put that right here. You cannot be a top level speedrunner unless you have a good mentality about the game. And we're going to get more and more into mentality, but as basically a precursor to mentality. We want to do as many favors to ourselves as we can. Do as many favors to ourselves as we can. And the easiest way for us to do that, pick your favorite game. Simple. A lot of people wonder, what game should I speedrun? Or like, oh, I don't know, I'm interested in all these different games. I don't know which one to pick. Yada, yada, yada. Yeah, just pick the games that you love. And moreover than that, pick a game you won't mind ruining casually. Now that's a big one. I love the Ratchet and Clank games, the OG trilogy. I love numbers 1, 2, and 3. Can I ever play them casually again? Absolutely not. Unless I'm absolutely wasted or I'm just messing around with friends. I don't find enjoyment in playing these games casually anymore, but you know what? That's not a problem, and I'll tell you why. I wouldn't be playing these games casually regardless. You know, I played these games so many times that I don't need to play them casually anymore. So speedrunning is perfect for me because they're amazing speed games. I highly recommend them if you're looking for a cool game to get into. Especially this guy right here. This is a pretty sick game if I do say so myself. Anywho. So that's the very, very basics. Now, when we're first learning the runs themselves, study hard. This is going to help you so much in the long run. Studying helps immensely. You need to study everyone. Study everyone who has a better time than you. With emphasis on the very top times. So times like basically places number 1, 2, and 3. If it's a super competitive category, you can expand into that. But you want to be studying every single person who has a better time than you. And the next rung of the ladder. So let's say I have begun speedrunning. Let's say we're speedrunning Ratchet and Clank, right? We're running Ratchet and Clank any percent. Well, let me go to the actual category itself. I didn't mean to go to my run. let's say, for example, that I am Clippy. Let's say I'm Clippy. 20th place, 51.55. That's not bad. Now, you might be looking up and saying, oh my god, well, the top times have 33s, and I have a 51. This seems impossible, right? How am I supposed to shave off 18 minutes? Well, you have to study them. You have to go through, comb through the runs, see what they're doing faster than you. And more than that, if I'm Clippy, I'm studying Toe, I'm studying Danny, I'm studying Boomer, I'm studying Sneep. I'm studying as many people as I can who are just above me to see what my next steps are. Because basically, you're getting a look, if you're doing that, you're getting the combination of the finished product and the next steps. So now you can compartmentalize them mentally and say, okay, well, I still have this, this, and this to work on, but for the time being, these people do this better than me, the people who are just barely better than me, and so I should work on this. And by doing that, you take this mountain and break it down into tiny, tiny bits of molehills. And this is, again, tying back. Actually, here, let me make sure I can capture my mouse cursor, because this is gonna help in the long run. Capture cursor. And capture cursor. This means that this all ties back into this right here. By dissecting all of our mistakes and all the things we have to learn, we therefore bolster our mentality. Now, when we're learning the tricks themselves, learning tricks, again, observe how the better players handle the tricks. Do these people hit them first try all the time? If so, that's the consistency you need to be working towards. Is it a crapshoot for some people? There's some strats that are either frame perfect or just insanely difficult because of a series of button combinations. And if the top players are screwing it up, then you know, well, it's totally okay if I screw it up because I'll just get better and better as time goes on. Let me see. Observe how the better players handle the tricks. And you know what? Sometimes there's merit in just either checking out community resources. I know the Ratchet & Clank Discord, we have an entire channel full of strats and tutorials and new updates to routes and things like that that are accessible to any and all runners. Check out community resources, that's a great one. And sometimes if you're really like digging, like if you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, YouTube is your friend. Give that quick YouTube bar a search. You never know what you can find. When I was originally routing Ratchet & Clank 3 Up Your Arsenal way back in like 2012, I found a lot of strats by just typing in Ratchet & Clank 3 glitches and seeing what I could find and then implementing them to the speedrun, seeing how they could make it faster. So all this stuff, studying is so immensely helpful. And to cap off this particular section, there's something to be gained from watching, I have my notes down here in case you're wondering, from watching as many people as possible. There's nothing wrong with studying runners. There's absolutely nothing wrong. People, even people who have worse times than you, like essentially, people don't play the same way until the optimal level. That's what I'm trying to say here. Style is a word that gets thrown around a lot. And oftentimes we grow by taking people's styles and adapting them to our own play style. Eventually, after a long time, you're going to figure out what kind of speedrunner you are. Whether you are somebody who constantly tries to go balls to the wall with really crazy hard tricks, someone who takes their time, really tries to iron out little things along the way. Maybe you're the kind of person who just throws themselves in, not in like a YOLO way, but like I kind of want to figure this out on my own kind of way. I don't know, you'll figure it out eventually, but you should always be studying people who have different styles than you, because it'll just do you a world of good in the long run. And actually, I'm going to separate these so that it doesn't get clustered. Actually, I'll do this. Yeah, this looks pretty good. And what I mean when I say they don't play the same way until the optimal level, I think a good example of this is Super Mario Brothers. Super Mario Brothers is a game where there is no difference in style. Everybody plays the exact same way because the game is so optimized that you have to play that way. So again, once we basically imagine it's like a pyramid. All styles exist on the same plane of the pyramid. And as you go higher and higher, there's fewer and fewer styles until you reach the absolute optimal, in which case there's going to be one style, ergo, there's going to be a series of strats that are the fastest possible strats. And you're going to need to implement all of those if you want to be competitive. But you don't have to worry about that until you've reached the very top. Then you should start worrying about that. Because again, we're talking mentality. You don't want to overload yourself as well. You want to be able to take your time. We're going to get a little bit more into that in a bit here. Let me pull out what are my next notes here. Aha! The next step. Practice. The 3 P's of becoming an excellent speedrunner. Practice, practice, practice. Oh, hold on. I've got some food here. Hello. Okay, well, I'm back now. I just had to go pick up some food that I had delivered to my house because I'm a lazy slob. All right. Practice, practice, practice. So insanely important. You will never, ever improve if you're not practicing. No matter how much you study, no matter how good your mentality is, you are not going to become a great speedrunner unless you learn how to love practicing. So let's dive more into practice. Let's unpack this a bit more. And this is a big one, and it's startling how much people don't realize this, but runs are not practice. They are not. Runs are not practice. You will never be able to take the things that you practice and become great at them, like consistent and understand them in the context of the run until you do them in runs. But to say that, oh, you know, this hard strat, I'm just going to learn it on the fly in runs. No, no, no. That's not going to cut it. You got to take that shit. You got to practice it. I don't care how much you're going to bitch and moan about it. You got to do it. You got to do it every single day if you want to become an excellent speedrunner. And that being said, that's my next point. Practice every single day. If you want to be truly competitive at this game, you need to be practicing every day. I don't care how long you're practicing. Honestly, bare minimum, 30 minutes or more. Even 30 minutes a day. You can find, I don't want to hear any excuses from anybody. Anybody who says, oh, I don't have 30 minutes. You know, I'm just dicking around all the time. I'm so busy watching Netflix or jacking off or whatever. You can find 30 minutes every single day to practice. You can take a day off, like at least 30 minutes a day, at least 6 days a week. You can take a day off. Days off are totally fine, and sometimes they're exactly what we need. But if you're not practicing at least half an hour a day, at least 6 days a week, you're not going to become a top runner. I'm sorry, you're just not going to. You got to put in the hours. There's no, there are no ways to cut corners. If you cannot become a top runner, if you cannot invest the time, run an easier game. I don't know what to tell you. That's the only thing I can even think of. You got to run an easier game if you want to. If you're just in it for the free records, or if you're just doing it like casual. Again, if you're doing this, if speedrunning for you is just a hobby and you don't give a shit about being a top runner, then I don't care. You can do whatever the fuck you want. But if your goal is to become number one, the absolute best of the game you run, you cannot cut corners on this. You cannot. And if you do cut corners, let me tell you what's going to happen. Even if you get world record, somebody is going to do it the right way, and they're going to eventually become better than you. That's just how it's going to work. You see. Ah, yes, this is another big one. There's a difference between practice. Wait, there's a difference between practice and efficient practice. Now you can dump in, let's say I'm practicing 3 hours a day. Now that's a bit on the more extreme end because it is at the end of the day a hobby. Except, you know, like for me, it's since I'm partnered and I actually make like real money doing Twitch stuff, it's like easier for me to justify playing like 3+ hours a day. But you know, I'm more of a fringe case. Let's say I'm practicing 3 hours a day though. Now, what do you think is going to be better? 3 hours of just mindless practice, running through the same shit over and over, not really thinking about what I'm doing wrong, just kind of throwing myself into the same errors over and over. Or the person who practices for an hour and a half and really critically examines what they're doing wrong and how to fix it, and then what they need to avoid in the future to like basically like the next step beyond that, which is how to make that faster. Now, the raw hours of 3 hours a day are not going to cut it in comparison to somebody who's practicing a smart hour and a half. So, practice smarter, not harder. If you only have half an hour a day to practice, make it the most dense, packed, efficient half hour of your fucking life. Be like, this is what I have to practice. This is why I'm practicing it. These are the mistakes I have to avoid. Let's iron them out. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go. So often I see people just kind of dicking around in practice and not really taking it seriously. And they will improve by sheer consequence of just doing it over and over. But imagine how much faster they can improve if they all did thoughtful practice. Let me see. Oh, this is a big one. And this ties again back into mentality. Practice never guarantees success in runs. Practice does not guarantee success. So often people get discouraged because they'll practice a trick for like an hour, 2 hours, a couple of days. And then they'll get into a run and they'll completely fuck it up. Now, let me examine why you should not be angry about this, but instead view this as a learning experience. When you practice a level, you're practicing it in a vacuum. You are saying, I'm going to practice this over and over and over. I'm ignoring all the context on either end. And I'm just going to do this. Now, are there going to be times where you're going to take that and just immediately apply it to your runs and then save a shitload of time? Yes. More realistically, you're going to practice a level over and over and over. You're going to do it in the run. And let's say it comes halfway through the run. You have an entire half of a run's worth of muscle memory fighting against you when you first implement this trick. So of course you're going to screw it up because your brain is not in it the way it was when it's in a vacuum. But that's not an issue because now you just got to go back and keep practicing so that you don't screw it up as badly next time. It's not about absolutes. Speedrunning is not a battle of absolutes. It's not you either did it correctly or you didn't. It's gradual. Speedrunning is an art form in and of itself. It's a craft that you have to polish and improve at over and over and over. And the work is never finished. And expanding on this, if you're failing things in runs that you nailed in practice, actually here, I'm going to put this under this branch. Keep practicing, like I said, and put the trick in context. Now, this is the next step. Putting the trick in context. Oh, wait, you can't see this part right here. Let me fix that. Put the trick in context. So, an example. Let's say that, again, same example as before, where the trick comes halfway through the run. You screw it up. So instead of just going back and practicing that same level over and over like a monkey, what you can do to trick your brain into simulating a real run, practice the level right before it, that level, the level after it, and then go back to that level. If you do that over and over and over, swapping between them, you trick your brain into getting the feeling of having to deal with other levels' muscle memory, but you're still in it mentally. You're there. You're like, okay, I'm ready to do this. So that's a great tip that I like using, where, you know, you've got the option of doing like late game RTAs, mid game RTAs, early game RTAs. You've got practicing the level before and after. You have a whole plethora of options in order to be able to take tricks and put them into context without having to risk screwing them up in a run. So that's the bare bones of practicing. Now we move on to mental walls. Remember how I said that this is all a mental activity? At least 50% of speedrunning. Let me just put that down here. At least 50% of speedrunning is mental. At least. All that practicing, all that, it's all just prepping you to have a steeled mind. Be focused and ready and in it. But sometimes, inevitably, we all hit mental walls. It doesn't matter what, it doesn't matter when. Everybody has to deal with it at some point. First step to overcoming those walls is accepting that every mistake is your responsibility. Every single one. If you run a game that's RNG based, now this might be the only exception, but let's say that you run a game that is RNG based. You chose to run this game. You lost the run to RNG, dude. But, oh wait, you can't even see shit. Okay, hold on. That's my bad. Let me move myself over here. That's totally my bad. Now you should be able to see this a lot better. You chose to run this game. You have nobody to blame but yourself for losing the run to RNG, because you could have chose to run a different game. If you're not willing to accept that sometimes in an RNG based game you will lose runs to RNG, you should not be running that game. Now, in a more realistic sense, every mistake is your responsibility. I don't care how mad you get. It's not the game's fault you screwed up. Okay? I don't want to hear it. Now, we've all been there. We've all been like, oh, the game did this stupid thing. I've never seen this before. No one's seen this before. How could this happen? Well, you didn't know. And sometimes that happens. You know, like sometimes you lose the run to unexplainable things, but that doesn't mean it's not your fault for making that mistake in the first place. Take that, learn from it, don't do it again. It's that simple. Next step. Stop focusing on what you should be capable of. Your PB is your skill bar. One of the most infuriating things for me to listen to is people being like, oh, well, like, you know, like, let's say an example. You know, just a random example. Let me pick out a category here. Oh, no. Oh, no, this is a great category. Rack 1 NG+. Now, as you can see, the world record holder, Scaff, is almost 2 minutes faster than anybody else. I mean, a lot of that is him implementing a lot of new optimizations and things like that, but a lot of it is also him just grinding the fuck out of that category, a category that nobody else felt like grinding, and getting insanely good at it. But so often we see people in the 24-minute, the 25-minute, the 26, 27, sometimes even the 29-minute ballpark, who are like, oh, well, yeah, you know, I'm definitely capable of getting like a 21 or a 22, but like, it just requires a lot of grinding, and I don't really feel like it, and I've already like proven that I'm capable of it, right? It's like, no, you absolutely have not proven anything. Your skill, as far as I'm aware, is measured by this number. Now, that's not to say that's the be-all, end-all. That's not to say that because Your number is not as high as someone else's number, that you are a worse player than them, but you cannot say that you are capable of doing the things well above your skill level if you have no, like, there's no proof of concept. Like, for me right here, I have a 2342. Do I think I'm capable of getting a 22 or a 21? Yeah, I think I could do it if I tried really hard. Am I about to be like, guys, I'm going to get a 22 and it's going to be so easy? It's like, no, absolutely not. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm going to practice and I'm going to get better and then let my times speak for themselves. I don't give a shit what you think you're capable of. Unless you've proven that you're even in the ballpark, you should not be talking. Keep your mouth shut. That being said, your goal is to improve, not to get a time. Now, this is a huge one, huge one. Remember how I was just saying before, oh, well, I think I'm capable of getting a 22. The reason why that statement is meaningless is because it doesn't help you. You're not helping your mentality by saying, oh, I should be able to get this. If you focus on practicing and improving every single day, that's actually a big one. I'm going to put that in practice. Practice every single day. Improve every single day. Improve. If you improve every single day, you will get better times by sheer consequence. Like, if I'm grinding runs over and over and over, and I'm getting better every day, logically, don't you think I would get a better time eventually as well? But if you tunnel vision on getting a time, instead of worrying about improving, you're going to stagnate your own growth and you're going to make it harder for you to hit that goal. So don't make PBs your goal, make improving your goal. And then when you're satisfied, you can leave with peace of mind saying, I know I've improved so much and I've hit a run that I'm very proud of for now. The time to me doesn't matter. The time should never matter. If you don't want to be a top runner, who gives a shit? Push yourself every day. Even if you want to be a top runner, push yourself every single day. If you're not, what the fuck are you doing? Oh, this is a big one. This is a big one, help overcome mental walls. If you've done it once, you can do it again and better. That philosophy, this right here, I'm going to bold this if I can. I cannot format. All right, Notepad sucks. I'm going to put this in brackets because it's very, very important. You lose a great run. You're on the best pace of your entire life and you choke. Choking happens. It happens to everybody, regardless of how skilled you are. Trust me, I know. But if you've done it once, you can do it again. That best pace of your entire life can become your average if you keep improving. I promise you, you will be able to replicate the runs that you thought were impossible to replicate. I promise you that. Just keep on pushing, keep practicing, keep studying, keep improving every single day. This is another big one. There is no God run. Say it with me. There is no such thing. I'm going to put it right here. No such thing as a God run. There's no such thing. There's no time that's unbeatable. Even like Clue, where it's just like done in a frame or something like that. Like you can tie that. You're not like incapable of beating any time. You know, there's no such thing as a God run. Scaff's 2147 is not a God run. My 3129 in Ouya NG Plus is not a God run, and I'm going to prove it. I'm proving it right now. I'm practicing every single day. I'm streaming. I'm doing everything I can to beat this run that I was so proud of because I know I can do it. There's no such thing as a God run, so don't believe there is one. Treat yourself better than that. Mentally, there's no benefit to believing that some run is unbeatable. Every single run is beatable with time, patience, and dedication. Ooh, this is another big one. Accept failure. You can't learn unless you fail. I don't care what people say. If somebody says that you, like, the winner is never the one that learns the most. You always learn from your failures if you allow yourself to learn from your failures. So accept failure. You will fail constantly in speedrunning. I have literally 5,500 attempts of this category, and I've failed on at least 5,000 of them. Like, failure happens, dude. There's nothing wrong with failing. Nothing wrong with it, unless you think there's something wrong with it, in which case it will hinder you. You will become afraid to fail, and you will not be as good as you possibly can be. Yeah, excuse me. Oh, and this is another big one. Mental walls. Sometimes you need to understand your body under stress. Sometimes you need to understand that, because oftentimes people don't realize how much they tense up when they're nervous. When I'm nervous, what I focus on is breathing. Hold on. Focus on breathing. Focus on relaxing your shoulders and body. So often I see people like hunched up like this, not breathing properly. Hydrate. I always have water when I'm speedrunning, because it even if you're mid-run, just having like a quick water break helps relax you a little bit. It gets you swallowing, it gets your body relaxing, naturally resting a little bit more, focusing a bit more on your breathing. All this stuff can help you avoid mental walls. All of this. But sometimes you need to find your own solution. Tyler1, famous League of Legends streamer, and well, famous former League of Legends streamer. He's known for going on tilt super fast and getting crazy angry and screaming all the time. And in a recent interview, somebody said, Tyler1, how do you deal with anger? How do you avoid tilting? And his answer was, I just break shit. I just find like a glass and I just chuck it at the wall. Or like I'll take my keyboard, I keep like a $7 keyboard. I'll just snap my keyboard in half. And it's like, I mean, there's probably more cost-effective ways of releasing your emotions, but it works for him. I mean, he's still one of the best League of Legends players out there, and he gets tens of thousands of people watching his streams because they love watching him do exactly what he does. So you need to find your own solutions, and don't be afraid of doing that either. Now, beyond mental walls, the next step. Oh, yeah. This is my personal favorite. Adaptability. Personally, as a speedrunner, I think adaptability is my strongest suit. It is what makes me, it is what has helped me propel myself into the world of being an excellent speedrunner. Adaptability is so underrated. It is so incredibly underrated. People do not discuss this. People do not talk about adaptability. Adaptability is so important because, again, you will make mistakes. I want to reiterate that. The ability to identify mistakes and correct them between runs is an incredibly powerful tool. This is what has helped me time and time again. Oftentimes, especially in like 6 or 8 hour streams, I'll hit a point where I'm playing out of my mind. I'm playing the best I ever have, but I cannot close out that run. Every single time I choke, the next run, I'm thinking about all the things I fucked up in my previous run. I'm thinking about, and it's not big things, because by and large, you want to trust your muscle memory. You want to trust the practice that you've done. But on a day-to-day basis, you will not play the same plan the same way every single time. So you have to think, you have to be like, all right, what mistakes am I making today? What mistakes am I making today? That is so important because, again, we're not perfect. Sometimes we screw up stupid shit and we have no idea why, but it happens. So you have to analyze what mistakes am I making today? What can I do to avoid them the next time? And you're going to mentally bookmark these mistakes too. You're going to say, all right, I screwed this up in my last run. What do I have to do to avoid doing it in this run? All right, cool, I got past this. Now, what did I screw up in this next planet? Let me adjust, tiny adjustments, very, very small adjustments. You're going to do it. You're going to knock it out. And your runs are going to get better and better as you go on if you trust in the ability to adapt. Adaptability. I swear to God, adaptability will save your life as a speedrunner. This can only happen when muscle memory from hours and hours of practice meets game knowledge from hours of studying. Hold on. From hours of studying meets patience and acceptance of failure. There's a lot to unpack here. Let me do this. You take the muscle memory that you got from practicing. You take the game knowledge you got from studying other people's runs, studying your own runs, studying things that you did right, things you did wrong, things you can go faster on. And you take all the patience and the acceptance of failure, those mistakes that you made on a day-to-day basis, you compartmentalized and you said, I'm going to fix these next run. And then you do it. And that's adaptability. Adaptability cannot happen until all of these things are rock solid. And then, and only then, can you finally start to adjust on a run-to-run basis instead of on a day-to-day basis. Adaptability also comes from understanding risk-reward. Now, risk-reward is one of my favorite things to talk about in speedrunning because people tend to overestimate how many insanely difficult strats you should go for. Now, let's talk about this day-to-day run concept, a run-to-run concept, where you know you're screwing something up over and over. Now, what do you think is the better idea for that particular day? You're doing a session of runs. Do you think it's better to keep bashing your head against the wall? Or do you think it's better to do a slightly slower, more consistent strat, use that, and actually continue the fucking run? Now, it should be self-evident, but a lot of people don't really do this. A lot of people have this idea that you should only be going for the optimal strats all the time. If you do anything less than the optimal strats, you're a failure. And it's like, no. I think a great example of this, going back to the very beginning. Super Mario Brothers. Do you think that any new player should ever start doing flagpole glitches, bullet bill glitches, fast 4-2s, or 4-2, whatever the fuck they call it, straight out of the gate? No! That's stupid! Start with low risk, medium reward. Work towards medium risk, high reward. Then high risk, high reward. High risk, medium reward. High risk, low reward. And actually, I mean, I guess you can even start with low risk, low reward if you want. Low risk, low reward. And I'll add low risk, work towards low risk, medium reward. Medium risk, high reward. And I don't know. I guess if you really want to put medium risk or medium reward, but that's basically just semantics at this point. These are the steps you should be taking. After a certain point, you get diminishing returns. The harder and harder the strats are, usually the less the reward is. So you want to start by knowing all of these basic tricks. I mean, it helps to study and practice the harder strats from the very beginning, but if you don't have a foundation, if you don't have the fundamentals down, you're just rolling dice every time you get up to a hard strat. Am I going to hit it? If you have backup strats, there's nothing wrong with having backup strats. Backup strats have saved my life more times than I care to admit. You want to learn all these though, because like going for all the hard stuff from the very beginning is only going to make you want to kill yourself. Like it's so fucking agonizing. Just going from strat to strat to strat, trying to figure out, all right, what's the best strat for every level? And I did this with Super Mario Sunshine. And that's why I stopped playing after a month, because I had burned myself out from trying to do every single hard strat, every single run. So it's not a race. I mean, like, yes, speedrunning is technically a race, but your process of improving is a marathon, not a sprint. Do yourself a favor, take the time and learn all the strats you can, even if they're not useful at all. You never know what you'll learn. You never know. And then eventually, once you're done learning the high risk, high reward stuff, then you have to keep progressing even further and do the strats that are so difficult but barely save you any time. And that's actually where we're at right now with this category, where now I have to start implementing strats that will kill probably 90% of my runs, but will save 5 seconds. And it's like, that's huge at the optimal level, but that's how it goes, right? I highly implore you do this. I highly implore you take the steps. Low risk, low reward, low risk, medium, 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 high, 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 medium, high, low, in that order. Because high risk, low reward strats are such a pain in the dick to learn, but that's where you make the most improvements. Finally, the last step. Moving on. Don't dwell on your failures. Don't dwell on your successes. Now, unpacking this a little bit. When I hit 31:29, I felt like I had hit the speedrun, the best speedrun I was ever going to do. Now, this mentality didn't last very long for me, because if you ever start believing that you have already accomplished your best accomplishment, you're never going to create anything better. So all the times that you choke and all the times you get great runs, appreciate them for what they are, learn from them, and move on. You have to. You absolutely have to. Otherwise, you're going to stagnate as a runner and you're never going to keep improving. You have to keep doing it every single day. You have to say, what are these things that I've succeeded at? You can, I'm not saying don't relish in your successes. Please do. Celebrate until you're fucking blue in the face or fucking throwing up in a toilet from like celebratory drinking as much as you possibly can. Do whatever you got to do to celebrate your successes, but move on from them. Please do yourself that favor and move on. Continue being an excellent speedrunner. Continue being better than you were the day before. Oh, this is such a big one. Practice the day after you PB. And practice the day after you world record. Now, I actually stole this concept from Daigo Umehara, the greatest fighting game player to ever touch a controller or a fight stick or whatever. He says the day after he wins a competition or a tournament, he always practices. Always. Because it helps you move on. You're like, okay, this is great. I've celebrated this tonight. I'm a little bit hungover. Next day, I'm ready to hit the grindstone again. There's a Chinese proverb, I believe it is, that no man who works before the sun rises 360 days out of the year will fail to feed his family. Well, the speedrunner that busts his ass 360 days out of the year will always improve, will always get better, will never fail to PB or continue pushing themselves and improving. And finally, a little anecdote. Now, this is actually one of the pivotal moments for me in my speedrunning career. Was Nindide's 114 in SMS any percent. This was actually the most... It was this and also Pydoix. I forget what time it was. I think it was sub 20 OOT any percent. Both of these runners are absolute inspirations to me because of how much they understood the ability to move on and keep focusing on improvement. Both of these runners achieved legendary times. Pydoix was the first person to ever get sub 20 in Ocarina of Time any percent, I believe. I might be mistaken about that, but I know he was at the very least the first person to get low 20. And I remember a stream. I was actually watching Pydoix while he did this. He got a world record that fucking... I think he actually got sub 20. Now, again, I might be wrong on this. Again, I apologize if I am. He got sub 20, which was a time that people had been fucking dreaming of since the beginning of Ocarina of Time speedrunning. Everybody in his chat was flipping the fuck out. Everyone was like about to lose their shit. What does Pydoix do? He hits reset and he does another run. Nindide had been grinding for 114 in Super Mario Sunshine any percent, a time people thought was impossible. He gets a 114.58. He had finally hit his goal time. What does he do? He resets and starts another run. Almost immediately. He says, cool, I got 114. And then he keeps fucking going. And when I saw this, I saw both of these live. And I said to myself, holy fuck. Imagine hitting your goal time in front of hundreds of people. People are celebrating. They're fucking lauding you as this amazing speedrunner. And you just say, cool. And then you start another run. That's fucking crazy. That is levels of woke that I dream of achieving every single day. Being so focused on improving and bettering yourself, being the best you can possibly be, that you just take a gigantic success and just be like, great, now let's keep going. That's incredible. And I highly recommend we all strive to emulate this. And finally, my last point, just to round things out, mentality is everything. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I've been meaning to put all my thoughts down about speedrunning into a video for quite some time. And I'm really excited to post this video. I really am. I hope that you guys learn a lot from it. I'm sorry there was no music, but last couple times I did videos with music, I got like kind of butt fucked by copyright. Consensually, of course. But yeah, I kind of don't want to get screwed over by copyright stuff. So figured I'll play it safe, not have any music. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I enjoyed making it. Hope you guys learned a thing or two. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, feel free down here. Why the hell not? I read all the comments. I don't respond to all of them, but I always read every single YouTube comment. So feel free to leave a message. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time.